Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. Today we take a look at an interesting phenomenon. Time slips. Penrith, Cumbria, mid-August in the 1970s. Angela and a friend were walking down on a footpath from Beacon Edge. The walk takes about 15 minutes. The path has many abrupt angles and zigzags through the woods. The trees are dense. The trees crowd the path as it winds through the craggy sandstone outcrops, making you feel separated from the regular world. Angela and her friend were having a good day that day. They talked, they laughed, they were enjoying each other's company. But at some point on their walk, the atmosphere grew increasingly thick, heavy, as if there was about to be a thunderstorm. They walked this way many times, only barely noticed the change in atmosphere, until their journey wound around a corner and they had to stop. They both saw it, an old-fashioned cottage made of stone. Angela says that it was more like a dwelling from the Middle Ages. The thing was, there had never been a cottage like this on this path before. Smoke was rising out of the chimney, meaning that there was someone at home. She says there was a very strange feeling about the place, foreboding. Her and her friend looked at each other, and as the door to the cottage began to open, they both fled. Eventually, she worked up the courage to take that path again, many months later, and the cottage wasn't there. Her friend, completely freaked out at the experience, never spoke to her about it after that. Another witness, Roger, was out with his family on vacation visiting Pembroke Castle in Wales. They decided to climb the tower. He was faster than the rest of his family, so he was a flight or two above them on the way up. When he reached the top of the tower, he looked out over the river and was surprised to see that it was filled with medieval boats. He thought there must be some kind of a festival or something going on. When his family made their way up behind him, he told them to check out the boats down below. They walked to the edge of the tower and looked down, and he was surprised when they turned to him and said, there were no boats. He ran back to the tower window himself and looked out again, and all the medieval boats were gone. Alice Pollock, who lived 1868 to 1971. She was visiting Leeds Castle in Kent. Alice had been born into the minor aristocracy, which may have been what allowed her entry into the castle, as it was not generally open to the public. Leeds Castle is a famous castle not far from London. Alice worked part-time as a psychic, and she was trying out some psychometry in Henry VIII's old room. Psychometry is the technique where a psychic will touch an object and get psychic vibes from that object. Impressions, the history of the object, and who owned it previously. She made her way around the castle, touching various objects, and she thinks this might have been what propelled her into the past. In front of her eyes, the castle shifted and changed. It became cold and bare. The carpet vanished, and a blazing fire appeared before her with logs in the fireplace. She saw a tall woman pacing back and forth in the room. This woman looked worried about something. She stared for a few moments, transfixed on her situation, when, in an instant, everything returned to normal. After the event, she did some research, and she learned later on that that room had been the prison of Joan of Navarre, who lived 1368 to 1437. Joan of Navarre was Henry V's stepmother. She was imprisoned after she had been accused of plotting to kill the king. She was, however, later found innocent and released. And now for a brief commercial break.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death,
At the hour of my death,
call me and bid me to come to thee.
Call me and bid me to come to thee.
Give me the compass. If you don't, we'll take her eyes. We'll take your family's eyes. We'll make this whole town blind.
From the evil one, deliver me.
From the evil one, deliver me.
At the hour of my death,
At the hour of my death.
Probably should have come here first.
come to thee.
Call me and bid me.
One of the most famous accounts of a time slip, which is reported in a book called An Adventure, which was initially published in 1910, and tells the story of two English women who experienced a time slip in the gardens of the Palace of Versailles on August 10th, 1901. These women had written the book under two pseudonyms, Elizabeth Morrison and Frances Lamont, when their real names were Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain. Moberly's father was a headmaster at the prestigious Winchester School and later Bishop of Salisbury. In her account, she doesn't believe that what she saw was anything to do with ghosts. They were walking through the garden area when all of a sudden, before them, the space changed, and they found themselves in the same gardens on August 10th in 1792, the day the French monarchy fell during the French Revolution. What's remarkable about this account is the details that the woman recalled, and they went on to have them confirmed, which increased their validity, that they had strayed into the past. After the event, the woman had met a few months later, visiting in Versailles, and talked about it again. Upon discussing it further, they realized that they had both looked in different directions and had seen different things as a result, but both had experienced the same time slip. Our next time slip took place on Bold Street in Liverpool. An off-duty policeman named Frank went shopping with his wife Carol in the city center. His wife went to buy a copy of Irvine Welsh's Train Spotting at Dillon's bookshop on Bold Street. Frank decided while he waited he'd go to purchase a CD at HMV on Ranelagh Street. On the way, he bumped into a friend, had a chat, and then a little while later, he made his way down to Bold Street to meet his wife. When he got closer to her location, he began to notice an unusual quietness to the area. Frank looked down and saw that the street was cobbled, but it had never been cobbled in his recollection before. As he looked up, he realized people were no longer in modern clothes. Everyone around him was now in outfits from the 1950s. He was hypnotized by this situation for a moment, and brought out of it when a loud car horn honked at him, and had to step out of the way as a box van with the name Kaplan's on its side sped by, barely missing him. He crossed the road and saw in place of the bookshop there was a large store with the name Cripps over its entrances, and the store had a window display showing off women's handbags, shoes, and other apparel. Frank turned and saw that there was a woman nearby who was the only one dressed in clothing from the mid-90s. She was carrying a bag branded with Miss Selfridge, a store that was not there until the 1950s. The modern-looking girl had a confused look on her face, frightened, baffled, and she wandered into the store labeled as Cripps. After he watched her enter, in a shudder, everything went back to normal. He was back in 1996, but a moment later, he saw that same woman come out of the store, the woman who had been in the time slip with him. Upon speaking with her, she seemed terrified, but confirmed that she had seen the same thing that he saw. These time slip stories have an air of truth to them, and these sort of events have happened all through history, dating back to ancient biblical stories, where time slips also occurred. What a strange phenomenon, but I definitely believe that it's possible that these could be entirely true. We don't know much about how time works. We know it's distorted, we know it moves in waves, and there are many theories and hypotheses on how this could happen, but at this point, there's just no way to prove or disprove any of it. Thank you for watching. Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, as we'll be uploading more regularly.